All of that and lots more keeping me company. My panel tonight, the Conservative peer and former MEP Baroness Jacqueline Foster and Green Party councillor and political commentator Martin Abrams. But before we get stuck in, here's your 6 o'clock news headline.
Michelle, thank you and good evening. The top stories. Donald Trump says if Hamas don't do the right thing, their end will be fast, furious and brutal. The US president issued that warning on his Truth Social account. His 20-point ceasefire plan calls for Hamas to disarm and for steps towards a Palestinian state, demands both sides have yet to fully accept. It comes as US Vice President J.D. Vance, who's in Israel, has said this afternoon there will be no boots on the ground in Gaza as he pushes to stabilise the fragile Gaza ceasefire. Mr Vance also says the ceasefire is in a very good place despite violence in the Strip over the weekend. Annie Hudson, the frontrunner to chair the government's national grooming gangs inquiry, has quit, deepening the crisis around the already troubled investigation. Sources say she withdrew before interviews took place, telling officials she was no longer interested following recent media coverage. Her exit comes after 3 survivors on the victims' panel have now resigned, accusing the Home Office of delays, secrecy and losing their trust. Shadow Home Secretary Chris Philp says the inquiry has descended into chaos and that survivors have no faith in the process.
When calls for a national inquiry became public in January, the Prime Minister smeared campaigners as jumping on a far-right bandwagon. Comments like that are a disgrace and are what led to this scandal being covered up in the first place. Months later, just 2 days before facing a vote in Parliament, the government finally agreed to the inquiry. But it's clear the government never wanted this inquiry, they were forced into it. Perhaps that is why, months later, the government has said nothing substantive publicly and their inquiry is descending into chaos.
But the Safeguarding Minister Jess Phillips insists the government remains committed to uncovering the truth.
Baroness Casey said to this House in the Home Affairs Select Committee she did not want a traditional judicial-led inquiry. She was explicit. And if anyone in this House can find me an institution that didn't fail these girls over the years, including our courts, who took the children away from the grooming gang victims, who criminalised some of them, there is no institution in our country that hasn't failed.
In other news, the ghostwriter of Virginia Giuffre's memoir Nobody's Girl has called on Prince Andrew to tell US police everything he knows about Jeffrey Epstein's abuse. Amy Wallace says the Duke of York needs to speak about his own moral compass, claiming his silence continues to hurt victims. Lawyer Gloria Allred, who represents several of Epstein victims, echoed the call, urging Andrew to cooperate with investigators about what he may have witnessed at Epstein's Manhattan home. Prince Andrew continues to deny all wrongdoing. Now, there are no plans for US President Donald Trump to meet Russia's Vladimir Putin in the immediate future, a White House official has stated. Last Thursday, Mr. Trump said he and the Russian president would hold talks in Budapest within 2 weeks to discuss the war in Ukraine. A meeting between US Secretary of State Marco Rubio and his Russian counterpart Sergei Lavrov was due to be held this week, but the White House said the two had had a productive phone call and that a meeting was no longer necessary. The White House did not share any more details on why the talks had been put on hold. Boris Johnson has told the COVID inquiry we probably did go too far with lockdown rules, particularly for children. Mr Johnson told the inquiry closing schools during the pandemic was a nightmare idea, but he insists he was left with no choice. The former Prime Minister, who launched the inquiry himself in 2022, denied there'd been a failure to plan, contradicting evidence from his former Education Secretary, Sir Gavin Williamson. Mr Johnson said he hoped schools would stay open, but the pace of the pandemic made closures unavoidable. It's his second appearance at the inquiry, where he previously apologised for the pain and loss caused by COVID. Elsewhere, the Conservatives say more than 2,000 prisoners convicted of rape, stalking and grooming could be freed early under the government's new sentencing bill. They've tabled an amendment to block what they call an insult to victims, warning dangerous offenders should serve their full terms. But ministers have hit back, accusing the Tories of hypocrisy, pointing out that thousands of serious criminals were also released early when they were in power. The government insists the new bill is designed to ease overcrowding while keeping the public safe. And finally, Israel has condemned the hostility and incitement, they say, that led to the Maccabi Tel Aviv saying it would not accept tickets for its match with Aston Villa. The Israeli club's announcement came amid efforts by ministers to overturn a ban on fans from the away team attending the Europa League match at Villa Park next month. The Israeli embassy in the UK said it expected the UK authorities to ensure the safety of Jewish fans and their full participation in public life. The decision to ban away fans came after the game was classified as high risk by West Midlands Police, based on what they said was current intelligence and previous incidents, including violent clashes and hate crime offences that occurred during the 2024 UEFA Europa League match between Ajax and Maccabi Tel Aviv in Amsterdam. Those are the latest headlines. For now, more from me in an hour.
Tune into GB News Radio wherever you are, online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Thank you very much for that, and hello, good evening to each and every single one of you. My name is Michelle Dewberry. This is Dewbs & Co, keeping you company till 7 o'clock tonight. Alongside me, I've got the Conservative peer and former Member of Parliament, Baroness Jacqueline Foster, and Green Party councillor and political commentator Martin Abrams. Good evening to both of you.
Good evening.
How are you today, ladies and gents? I was very happy when we closed the show yesterday, wasn't I? Because of the non-crime hate incidents. I went to bed feeling quite optimistic that actually maybe things are about to change. And then I saw some of the borrowing figures that came out today, and I thought maybe I peaked a little bit too early. But you can join the conversation in all the usual ways tonight. You can get in touch on email gbviews@gbnews.com. You can go to the website gbnews.com/yoursay. Of course, you can tweet or you can X me. So let's get into those borrowing figures then, shall we? Because long story short, the state of our borrowing in this country is out of control. When you look at what we've been borrowing this September, the September that's just gone, it was the highest borrowing in, I think, 5 years. In the last 5 years, I'm going to put a graph up on the screen, actually, so you can see what I'm actually talking about. But I think it is safe to say that borrowing in this country has gone out of control. Look at that, £20.2 billion. That is the government borrowing for September 2025. Let's just listen to the Chief Secretary of the Treasury, James Murray, and listen to what he had to say about it, shall we?
Stick to our fiscal rules, and our fiscal rules, which have been endorsed by international commentators like the IMF, will have debt falling, and that's really important to make sure we've got that stability in our economy, which is the foundation on which businesses like all of those I'm meeting here today can invest in different parts and nations of the UK, get the economy growing and put more money in people's pockets.
So when we're in a basket, rocking forward and backwards, pretty much eating each other because it's all going that badly, as long as we're chanting, we're following the fiscal rules. Is that the way it works? Baroness Jacqueline Foster, your thoughts?
Well, it's not really the way it works. I mean, you can say all sorts of things. I think it's fair to say that they have really not thought things, this government have just not thought things through at all since their first budget and now. And it's not just the borrowing for September, which has gone up by another 20 billion. I think so far, in the first 6 months of this year, they've also increased it, I think, by 100 billion, just short of 100 billion. So, you know, there are a number of reasons. They had many years to decide what they were going to do before they came into power. They came into power and they promised all sorts of things. They did the deals with the trade unions. I have no issue with people earning good money, but there was no, as I think I've said before, there was no quid pro quo, there was no productivity in those deals. So, you know, I think she'd hit about 24 billion by then. And what's going to happen, I think, when we come up to the budget, I have no idea. I mean, she's absolutely floored the small and medium-sized businesses with the national insurance contributions, and they make up about 83% of the of the UK economy, and this is the engine room. There was no notice about increasing the minimum wage. We all want people to earn well, and so business has just basically been left in limbo. And all she's continuing to do, frankly, this Chancellor, is continue to just, every time she stands up, she's promising more people and more money, and we just don't have the money to be able to do that.
We do not, and I can always remember when the Chancellor sat in the Commons crying. Can you remember that, ladies and gents? And we were all told it was because of some kind of personal issue. No, it wasn't. It was because she couldn't handle the pressure of the job. And look at the pressure of the job. I would put it to you, ladies and gents, that we've got ourselves in an absolute mess. What do you think, Martin?
Well, Michelle, I'm no fan of Rachel Reeves, but, you know, I think we need to set the context to the current economic state of the country. You know, decades of neoliberalism, 14 years of devastating Tory austerity that has basically destroyed the social fabric of our country. So Labour came in and basically they put a albatross around the economy's neck straight away by having these ridiculous fiscal rules. What Labour really needed to do was invest in productive capacity, properly invest in our infrastructure. If you want growth in this country, then you have to invest. And but all we've heard from the government... Does that mean
more borrowing?
That means borrowing into productive capacity, which will then lead to a growth in the economy and more money for the coffers. But, you know, when it comes down to it, OK, borrowing, we need to get away from this framing that the nation's economy is like a company, a family credit card. It is not. OK, the government borrows from the Bank of England. It's very complicated because it's all about bonds and gilts. But if you want this country to thrive, you have to borrow. Yeah. It is as simple as that.
Borrowing is not free, is it? It has rising interest rates attached to it. It's out of control. So you almost say that as though it's kind of, yes, we need to borrow, and if we borrow, all will be well. But I've just shown you the chart there in terms of the borrowing. What we are spending in debt interest is astronomical and growing on an almost daily basis. So
the Chancellor's going to have to come up with some, you know, interesting announcements at the budget. You know, things like wealth taxes. You know, she's probably going to have to encounter the fact that taxes on higher income people are going to have to go up. Why? As well. Why?
Why should higher income people in this country who draw very little from the state, the top 1% pay something like 28% of income tax or total tax, the top 10% pay 60%, why should those higher earning people subsidise even more and more of a state that they barely even draw from?
Well, because our country has become massively unequal. You just have to walk out of your house every day to see the rampant inequality that we have in our country. The richest 50 families in the UK hold as much wealth as the poorest 50% of the country. That's basically 30 million people. How can that be right for the 6th richest country in the world to have basically people struggling to put food on the table? This is the conundrum that Rachel Reeves is going to have to fix during the budget, because a Labour government has to pursue redistributive policies. That is the entire purpose of a Labour government, to stand up for working class people, to reduce inequality and to make sure our country thrives. And at the moment, they're just not doing that.
This cash off the top ones then?
Can I just come in, because I mean that's all very well, a wealth tax. I mean that's the sort of green, that's a green proposal that's been there for many years. If you look at actually what you're proposing in the Green Party, what they've said, your leader has said, is that if you propose a wealth tax, it's going to raise between 20 and 25 billion pounds a year, obviously for the Chancellor. That's not correct, actually. The countries that have already introduced and have wealth taxes, if you were looking at Switzerland or Norway, and there's a couple of other countries also around Europe, the maximum that they ever raise from these wealth taxes is probably about 3 billion. So that in itself is just a totally inflated amount. In addition addition to that, a wealth tax, whatever it's going to be, is not going to deal with the issues that I have already pointed out in terms of the decisions the government has made. Most people who are in this country who are working are paying half of their salary, half of their wages already to the government. That's 50%. You've got more and more in the public sector who are on incremental scales and into the 40% bracket. So people in the health service, people in the public sector, they're falling into the 40% bracket now. You know, and these are people, everybody's hard-working. I don't know people who don't work hard, actually. So, you know, it's then the definition of who are the working classes. The working classes are everybody that contributes, actually, to this country in whatever capacity of work that they actually do. So this sort of, I don't know what it is. It's like the government talk about, and you're talking about, oh, with the working class. I mean, we're all working. We work, most of us have probably worked most of our lives and we're probably still working. So it's just a sort of catch-all. So what are the detailed policies of the Green Party? Because a wealth tax on its own doesn't mean anything.
Jacqueline, I need to caveat this, is that I'm not a spokesperson for the Green Party.
Well, you are a Green representative. You're a councillor,
Let me just say this. The one way to deal with people, with inequality in our society is to increase wages. Okay, wage stagnation has occurred for the last 25 years. Under the Conservative Party, of which you're a proud member,
I am.
Wages stagnated completely.
No, they
We've
didn't.
not seen. Yes, they did, Jacqueline. We've not seen wage growth in this country for about 20 years. And
that's incorrect.
No, it's not incorrect, Jacqueline. It's not.
The only time that there was stagnation was when we went through, where we borrowed $500 billion and then we borrowed another 70 billion, was between 2021 and 2024, when we obviously had COVID, where industry, I mean, people were not getting, certainly in the private sector, was certainly not getting pay increases. Fortunately, that started to move slightly, but that still doesn't deal with the pressures that this government's decisions are putting on business to try and create growth and jobs.
So I've suggested a few ideas for Rachel Reeves. Okay, wealth taxes, you know,
you've got to cost it.
Increasing taxes on the highest earners.
So hold on. So 45% then is your additional rate tax. You're saying increase the tax rate on the highest. So what would you do with that 45% additional tax bracket then? Increase it?
Listen, we have got comparatively lower taxes than a lot of European countries.
No. So the additional rate tax for if you're a PAYE, if you're someone on payroll, an employee, it's 45%. What would you do with that? Would you increase that even more?
Well, listen, this is something that needs to be worked through. But
what's your instinct telling me? Because what's your instinct? Do you think that people should pay more than 45% of their earnings to the government?
Well, in a lot of countries they do, and they have better public services. As a result, they have better health services.
45% of your earnings to the government.
I think the highest earners, people earning over £100,000 a year, should probably pay more tax than they're already paying.
But I'm asking you, so your additional rate is 45%, so I'm asking you, you've got an additional rate of 45%, what should that be increased to in your world?
Well, listen, you know, I'm not Rachel Reeves. She's going to have to work. She's going to have to work this through.
But you must
the
have
highest.
You keep repeating to me the highest earners should have to pay more tax.
And
so
listen,
you, they pay 45%. So what would you think they should pay?
And these are suggestions that I'm coming up with. Okay.
What's your suggestion?
The highest earners have to pay more tax. Okay.
How much more? I'm asking.
Well, I don't know, 5%, 10%, or you know.
So 10%. Right. So
do you know how much? Do you know how much their highest tax band was for the richest people?
So no, because I need to be clear on
50
what you're
years
suggesting,
ago.
because I think it's so ludicrous.
No, it's not.
So the additional rate tax is 45%. So you've just said maybe people should pay an additional 5 or 10%. So let me get this straight. So you think that somebody should go to work and have a 55% tax bracket. So they go to work and more of their wages go to the government than actually goes to their... Are you living
if you earn over £100,000 a year, you are in the top 1% of earners. Okay? You do realise that.
What's that got to do with the price of fish? I'm talking about tax brackets.
Higher taxes on earnings over £100,000 a year would go into the exchequer. Okay? I don't think that is too much to ask for our richest. And, you know, I'm coming up with all the ideas around this table.
Michelle,
What are your ideas, Jacqueline?
You've just told us you don't speak for the Green Party.
I need to go for a break in a minute. I might also need to go for a lay down.
Me too.
It's only 6:20 and it's already been suggested that you should go to work and more of your wages, 55% of your wages should go to the government, and you should earn less than Rachel Reeves earns out of you going to work. Get out of it. That's what I say.
People over
Goodness
£100,000
gracious
a
me.
year.
There you go. If you're on £100,000 a year, you should be.
I'd love to be on £100,000 a year.
Get me a Z bed. I'm having a lie down. I'll see you in a couple of minutes.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace
Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Hello everybody, Michelle Dewberry with you till 7, Baroness Jacqueline Foster and Martin Abrams alongside me. Amy, I like you. She's got in touch at home and saying, will you stop saying we have borrowed all of this? We haven't done anything, Michelle. We are having it done to us. I hear you, me and you could be friends. Dolly says this rhetoric that Labour keep using about money in people's pockets is infuriating me. It's more like we're draining the pockets of people. Steve says, at the end of the day, when you cause massive inflation, it doesn't matter how much money is in people's pockets because it all is getting eroded. The worst comment that I've heard tonight has come from Talia. She's just got in touch asking me what on earth a Z bed is. I cannot deal with certain people in society, I'm afraid, so I shall move on. If you don't know what a Z-bed is, that's what Google is for. Anyway, look, Maccabi Tel Aviv, we've discussed this at length. Well, that story has now concluded, hasn't it? Because now they put out a statement yesterday saying that they are going to essentially refuse any ticket allocation for their match. Of course, you know this story. It's all about the story in Aston Villa next month. This, I can tell you now, has had a very mixed reaction. Some people are saying it's the right move from the club. Other people saying it absolutely is not. Jacqueline, where are you on this?
Well, I'm disappointed in a way because I think it was actually all avoidable. I think what irritated me most about this, and I've been a Liverpool supporter actually, I think my entire life, is we know that we will get football fans, and there is often a small cohort who cause problems, and that's happened over the decades. They've been dealt with. What we also have in this country are extremely professional police officers, and every Saturday at grounds that hold, 70, 80,000 people, they manage to work with the club, and they managed to actually keep these warring factions of supporters apart. There is the odd trouble, obviously, but it's dealt with. I think the worst thing about this was there was an international fixture. There we have Maccabi Tel Aviv, who are going to play Aston Villa, a relatively small club, probably about 1,000 fans, you would say, would probably be coming over from there. And whipped up by a petition with a member of parliament, and he's all over Twitter. It's Ayub Khan, MP, and councillors and people from Birmingham Council whip up this petition to refuse to allow the fans from this club from Israel to come and play their fixture. All to do with apparently safety reasons, because obviously they've got some dodgy fans too, but very small number, and it was allowed to basically go ahead. A decision was made by West Midlands Police, and they turned around and said, right, they can't come. That in itself was atrocious. Notwithstanding, no single MP has the right to determine foreign policy in this country, or the right to determine who and who cannot play at a football fixture in the United Kingdom. So that in itself, I think, was appalling. The government dithered, and it dithered, I don't know, for several days. All sorts of, obviously, a lot of us were lobbying very hard. And the whole issue now is, where we've now got to, is this club have decided that actually, due to the safety concerns for their fans, it's actually not in their interest to let them come. I think it's an appalling, I think it's a tragedy that they've had to do this. But then the question is, who are going to be beating up these fans? Because this little group of 1,000 fans clearly were going to be in danger from other fans who are going to be turning up at this football match. So I think it's actually appalling, and it doesn't do us any credit for a leading figure when you're looking at international football.
You have strong opinions on this, I know, Mark.
I feel like I'm going completely mad. I
felt like that in your previous section.
Jacqueline has just completely ignored the litany of hooliganism, racist incidents, disgraceful chanting that this club have been partaking in. Just literally last Sunday, the Maccabi Tel Aviv Hapoel Tel Aviv game had to be abandoned because both sets of fans were rioting before the game. Like, why are we even discussing this?
What's your issue then? So is your issue that you don't want any fan element that's got hooliganism potential in this?
I don't want any fans of any club that have got a history like Maccabi Tel Aviv coming to this country and spreading their hate and their violence in this country. When they went to Amsterdam, there is recordings of these fans chanting about raping Palestinian women, about how there's no schools left in Gaza because the IDF have killed all the children. They tore down flags, they damaged property. There's then been this kind of reframing that the locals in Amsterdam were the ones causing all the problem, when there's video evidence of Maccabi Tel Aviv fans doing all of this. When they were in the stadium, there was a minute's silence for the victims of the Valencia floods. During that minute's silence, they booed, they jeered, they let off fireworks because Spain had that week recognised Palestine as a state. These fans are a disgrace and they are not the victims here. But let's be clear, Michelle.
Do you think you're generalising a little bit? Because at the end of the day, lots of Maccabi fans ended up in hospital. There's been people sent to prison for organising, quote, Jew hunts and actually attacking these fans.
Yeah.
Right.
Do you think
listen, I'm not justifying any violence.
I'm asking you, do you think that you are tarring? Because you're talking about this hooligan club. Do you not feel like you are generalising all of a supporter base as being hooligans?
No, but there's a very strong element within their fan base.
There were 6 fans charged. There were 6 Maccabi fans charged.
That's because they were all sent to the airport and they left before they could be arrested, Jacqueline.
The majority of fans that were charged were actually from the opposing team.
Right, but I want to get to the bottom.
And I don't condone any of it.
So is your position that you are now a staunch ambassador against hooliganism coming into the UK, and therefore you are now going to be campaigning to stop any international club or domestic club letting fans travel that have got hooligan past? Is that your position now?
Well, this is not unprecedented. Away fans have been banned.
So you're currently saying that these ones.
I am campaigning for the same standards to be applied to Maccabi Tel Aviv as they are to all other clubs, and they weren't by the government. An operational decision was made by the Westminster Police and Birmingham City Council. That was then completely undermined by Keir Starmer, who basically intervened in operational policing matters, then started conflating it with anti-Semitism. And as a Jewish person myself, I think that was absolutely appalling to basically conflate Jewish people with these fans of the club that have a very strong hooligan element. That in itself, in my view, was anti-Semitic.
The person that started to bring all of this in was the Member of Parliament, who actually set up this petition. And I think you need to go back and read what he said, and also some of his cohorts, what they were saying, including a cleric from a mosque calling everybody Zios and all of this sort of stuff. So don't go there. Don't go there.
Maccabi Tel Aviv aren't the victims. I just want to finish on this, though.
Don't go there.
Because this could have been all avoided, Michelle.
It could have been.
It could have been all avoided.
Could have been if you hadn't started.
And FIFA had applied the same standards that they apply to Russian clubs and Russian teams.
Israel isn't Russia.
When Russia invaded Ukraine...
Israel is not Russia.
Jacqueline, let me finish this, because this is very important. When Russia invaded the Ukraine, Russian teams, domestic and international, were banned immediately from any international competition.
Israel didn't attack
What has happened
Gaza.
in Gaza over the last 2 years, Jacqueline,
nothing to do with that.
Comparatively way worse than what has happened in the Ukraine. 20,000 dead children, declared a genocide by the UN Commission, and yet Israel
It is
allowed...
not declared a genocide.
The UN Commission declared it a genocide 2 weeks ago.
They did not declare it a genocide. The
UN Commission declared it a genocide. It met 4 out of 5 genocidal
The UN
tests.
are corrupt and they're up to their necks in it.
So they did declare it a genocide.
The UN wouldn't even acknowledge the rape of all of these women for several months. UNRWA, the UN organisation, was actually involved in the abduction of some of the hostages. We have all the evidence. I have seen the evidence.
Do you agree?
And I have seen the footage. So let's not talk about Russia.
Do you agree with the ban in Russia? Do you agree with the ban in Russia?
The ban in Russia was a completely different thing.
Do you agree with the ban of the South African apartheid regime for 30 years?
What are we talking about South Africa?
These are the same standards. These are the same standards.
No, they're
Jacqueline.
absolutely.
Yes, they are.
Don't go there.
No,
don't go
I'm going
there.
I'm
this
going
is
there.
completely.
I'm going there.
It is completely separate.
Whatever happened to the days when sports...
I don't know where they conflate history.
Geopolitics as opposed to a weapon to be used in it. You will have very strong opinions on some of the stuff that you have just been hearing. But look, a very special guest joining the programme after the break. I really want to take some time for this next conversation. It's about the real-world impact of crime. I'll see you in a minute.
Yeah.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Half term has already started for some of us, but I'm afraid there's not much holiday sun to go around. Parts of Greece will see heavy showers and thunderstorms. Also, many areas of northern Europe will continue to see unsettled weather, heavy showers, also some strong gusty winds, particularly around northern coasts of Spain and around coasts of France. Italy too will see some heavy showers, and Greece could see some quite intense thunderstorms with hail and gusty winds. These are set to continue as we head later into the week, with hopefully the return of some sunshine over the weekend.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Good evening, I'm here with your GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. There's some wet and very windy weather to come later tomorrow and into Thursday, but for the time being, well, things are actually turning a little bit drier. We still have low pressure in control. It's just to the north of the UK, but it's somewhat easing, and so we're going to see a lot of the showery rain clearing away as we go through the rest of this evening, and most places turning largely dry. Not completely dry, there will still be a few showers coming into the northwest, but most places having a lot of clear weather because of the clear skies and the winds easing out as well. Temperatures dropping a bit lower than they have done through some recent nights. Towns and cities mid to high single figures quite widely, but some rural spots dipping close to perhaps even a little bit below freezing. So there could be a touch of frost first thing tomorrow morning, and also a few patches of mist and fog across southern parts of England and Wales, largely dry, just one or two coastal showers here and there. A similar story across northern parts of England. Meanwhile, across Scotland and Northern Ireland, showers will be piling into western parts. Some of them could be a little bit on the heavy side. Meanwhile, towards the east, well, it is going to be drier, it's going to be clearer, and with that a greater chance of a touch of frost and also some of those mist and fog patches. Once any mist and fog does lift, it's actually looking like a pretty fine day for many of us tomorrow, probably the driest day of the week for most, with a good deal of dry, sunny weather around, albeit there will be some cloud here and there, and the cloud is going to thicken from the southwest as we go later on. With the sunny spells most of us will see, it should feel relatively warm at times, albeit temperatures are near normal for the time of year. Heavy rain and strong winds push in from the southwest later tomorrow. They feed their way across many southern parts as we go into Thursday. We're looking at the potential for gusts in excess of 70 miles per hour around some eastern parts, and rainfall totals in the south up to 50 millimetres. So some disruption quite likely because of that low pressure that's pushing its way in. Friday's looking showery, Saturday's drier but colder. See you later.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good evening, this is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. The A828 at Connell Bridge is closed due to a traffic incident, causing expected delays. In Northamptonshire, a collision on the A45 eastbound is causing a 40-minute delay. Lane closures on the A34 northbound in Oxfordshire are due to a broken-down vehicle. In Portsmouth, delays are reported on the A27 eastbound slip road from the A3 because of a collision. On the trains, Gatwick Express services are not running, and East Midlands Railway disruptions affect routes between Cleethorpes, Lincoln, Ely and Norwich. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Dewbs & Co. With me, Michelle Dewberry. Now look, regular viewers will know we like the rough and tumble of political debate in this studio, and I also feel very, very passionately about law and order. We often talk, don't we, about crimes that take place on our streets. We often talk about statistics, but what about the actual real-life impact, real-world impact when crime actually happens, when it's no longer a statistic, when it's no longer a far-off headline, but it's actually somebody and something that affects you, your life, your family, your home. Joining me in the studio right now is a man that I have huge admiration and respect for. He's a man called Martin Kosser. Martin was on the programme once before. His son, you might remember this story, 17-year-old son Charlie, he was stabbed. He went to a party back in July 2023. He was stabbed 4 times and he fought bravely for his life. Unfortunately, he didn't manage to win that fight. When he passed away, his father, Martin, made a promise to Charlie, twofold promise. The first one was to get justice when it came to his murderer. This was a TikTok that he released, and TikTok is a big part of the story, and we'll explain why. But this was a TikTok that he released immediately after he got that justice for his son. Take a listen.
Gone in, we've had the verdict, and he's guilty on both counts. Guilty for first-degree murder, guilty for carrying and taking a weapon there. He killed our son, but he's guilty. We just have to work on getting his name out there now, but he's guilty. He's guilty.
Thank you, Martin, for coming in again.
No, it's lovely to see you.
And I wanted to take us back to that moment because the promise that you made, I mean, any parents, grandparents, what you've been through is just unimaginable. That raw moment there. What was going through your mind? You made your promise to get justice for your son.
Yeah.
That was you achieving it.
Yeah, I'd come out, we'd just been given, we'd been told that he'd been found guilty, and my emotions just took over. It was in the moment. We were having so many people supporting us and following us, friends, family, and people on TikTok, and I've been updating them every day throughout the trial, and it got to that moment, and I just didn't think about it. I picked the phone up and like, he's guilty, and it was raw emotion, and I posted and almost forgot about it, and I went back on about an hour later. First of all, I saw the video and I was like, oh my God, that looks terrible. That's how I felt. But I'd had about 1 million views, and I thought, you know, that was a moment in time that was real.
And why these views are important, because I'm not somebody who gets into the culture of clicks this and views that, but this matters. And the reason it matters is because the second part of your promise to your son was to raise awareness, to campaign, to get directly into the lives, the hearts and the homes and the schools of young people. Tell us more about that.
Well, look, I saw Charlie lying in intensive care. He'd lost every milligram of blood in his body. He had a ruptured bowel, ruptured spleen. He'd had 2 traumatic cardiac arrests. And he was lying there helpless, and I knew I needed to do something. I just knew I had to, and I promised him that I'd spend the rest of my life educating young groups of children about the dangers and the impacts of knife crime, which is why my charity is called Charlie's Promise. That led to us registering last year as a charity. I've now spoken to 50,000 young people in the last year. But about 13 weeks after Charlie's murder, I did my first talk. Looking back now in reflection, it was too soon. It's very emotional for me, but I did it with a reformed gang member that I sometimes work with, and he filmed a bit, and he said, do you mind if I put it on TikTok? And I wasn't even aware of TikTok. I was like, TikTok, tickety-tock, you know, what's that? I don't even know what that is. Go on then. And he came back to me a few weeks later, and he said, your video had 1 million views, and something clicked for me. It's a very lonely place when you've had your child murdered, particularly as a man. Men aren't very good. They don't know what to say. They don't know what to do. And I actually find it really therapeutic talking into a screen. I joined TikTok as a way of showing the impact that it's had on me as Charlie's dad. Those moments that have been stolen from me, his birthdays, anniversaries, Christmases, you know, all of these times that are just, again, real highlights that Charlie isn't there, and I suddenly started getting like loads of people following me, and I think they're just real, really, and that's what I am, Michelle. You know, they're authentic, they're emotive, they're raw, but they're real. You know, I record moments. Charlie's 18th birthday. We were planting a tree for Charlie on his 18th birthday, 12 weeks after his murder. I recorded it because I wanted people to see the damage that's done. Yeah.
And this is the thing, and this is why I think it matters. I mean, you've got, there's a documentary, it goes live tonight, TikTok murder gone viral.
Yeah.
And one of the things that you do with your messaging is not only to spread awareness, Riz, you want to try and inspire people not to pick up those knives in the first place. I saw one of your videos, you was explaining stab, 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 a few seconds. That's what it takes to lose not just the victim's life, but the perpetrator's life as well.
The minute we got that knock on the door at 12:30 in the early hours of the 23rd of July, with 2 police officers standing there who knew my name, telling me my son had been stabbed and that he was critical, our world changed forever in that moment. But the reality is the action leading up to that is somebody makes a decision and thinks it's sensible to pick up a knife, then take it out, and that 2-3 seconds of pure violence, hatred and aggression against a young man that wouldn't even have had an argument with anybody has destroyed the people I love most in this world. I cannot articulate to you what it has done. You know, I know you've had your own.
I was about to say, unfortunately,
you have. No, bless you.
I'm in the same gang as you.
Yeah.
We've had that knock on the door,
you have.
and it's changed. I lost my sister.
Yeah.
No, it's fine. I lost my sister, and I'm very open about it. It's her birthday. It would have been her birthday tomorrow, as it happens, and I know, and that's one of the reasons that I'm really keen always to share your story as well, because I know you never ever get over it. We, as a family...
Tara still sleeps with the light on.
Yeah, exactly.
She sleeps with the light on. She messages Charlie every day, even though his phone's in a box in his room with the last clothes that he ever wore. They sit next to a half-eaten pack of sweet chili nuts. They sit next to his ashes. Why are his ashes there? Because we walk around graveyard after graveyard, crematorium after crematorium, couldn't find anybody his age. If I'm not doing a talk, and I'm in schools every single day, and I do keynote speaking in the evenings, I go to bed at 7 o'clock every night because I can't sit in my lounge. I've been away 3 times on my own just to breathe. I've had friends that I've had for decades that I barely hear from. My daughter, Eloise, she was 15 years old when she watched her brother die. 15! When her friends were doing a GCSE, something she'd worked really hard for. She was at her brother's murder trial. You know, teachers at her school ignored her. And when I challenged it, I was told it was hard for them. They didn't know what to say. Well, let me tell you this. My daughter had to visit her brother at 15 in a chapel arrest after a Home Office post-mortem. That's hard.
I know. Well, I've been that child when I was 17. I've been in that situation myself, and it's awful, and you will never, ever get over it. No. What can my viewers do to help, to get involved, to help spread the word? Charlie's Promise, tell them more. Yeah,
I'll tell you what you can do. You can use my son as an example, of what can happen. I think Tara and I, my wife, as parents, never spoke to our children about knife crime because we knew they wouldn't carry knives. What we didn't legislate for was the behaviour and actions of other people. And I think Charlie's story, our story, just a normal family, you know, has to be an example of what can happen. The night Charlie was stabbed, there were missed opportunities. A shank was mentioned twice and a knife once by my son's murderer. The mum was at home at the farmhouse in West Sussex that night and nobody did anything about it. You know, we don't blame those young kids, but nobody did anything about it. The reality is, if someone had gone to the mum that night and told her that they'd heard there was a knife or called the police, my son would still be alive. And I'd like to say one last thing, if I may.
You cool?
Euroveribus, my son's murderer, he was known to carry a knife. We've heard this since Charlie's murder. And again, no one had done anything about it. There's an organisation called Fearless. Fearless is part of Crime Stoppers, and it enables young people to report knife carriers 100% anonymously without the fear of any retribution, OK? It's completely anonymous. And by contacting Fearless, you can do it on 0800 555 111 or at fearless.org. By reporting that person, you need to understand you may just save a life. And that is the reality. No family should have to live like my family lives.
Well, God bless you. And what a powerful message. And I echo what Martin just said. You've got to check your children. You've got to check bedrooms. You've got to have conversations, the hard conversations. But for now, we wish you all the very best with your documentary and also with your activism and your campaigning. Thank you very much for sharing your story with our viewers.
Thank you.
Oh, goodness me, what do you make to all of that, ladies and gents? Absolutely horrific. I want to talk to you, though, about criminals behind bars, because sentencing bill, of course, in the spotlight today. More criminals perhaps being released early from prison. I'll see you in 2. I'm Michelle Dewberry. This is Dewbs & Co. with you.
Hello, everyone. Patrick Christie is here. GBNews, Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GBNews family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection. Tune in to GB News, anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m.
Only on GB News.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray. Are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get this on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Hello everybody, Michelle Dewberry alongside you till 7. I've got Jacqueline Foster and Martin Abrams alongside me as well. That was a very moving conversation we've just been having. CharliesPromise.org is the website for that charity he was just mentioning, and you can find Martin on TikTok at CharlieCossa17. What a great family, doing really, really good and very valuable work. As I said, I'm a member of that club, of having had that knock on the door unexpectedly. I wouldn't wish it on anybody, because let me tell you now, it doesn't matter how many years pass, life never, ever goes back to the way it was. But look, speaking of criminals, one of my viewers has just said, Michelle, Lisa says there needs to be mandatory full sentences for anyone found with a knife. Well, what should be behind bars, though? What happens then? Because today the government's sentencing bill has been debated, and it looks like, yet again, more criminals may be released early. Martin, your thoughts on this?
Well, it is quite concerning. I think we again need to contextualise this. Decades of underfunding of our judicial and prison systems have left them at absolute breaking point. We've gone down a route of punishment rather than rehabilitation. Unlike many other European countries which try and rehabilitate offenders as best as possible, and then they have much lower reoffending recidivism rates as prisoners are then integrated into society. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and agree with any, of the suggested prisoners that have committed some of the most heinous crimes being released early, because I think you need to centre the victims in all of this. Whenever you're debating, really, really horrific crimes, the victims need to be front and centre of that debate.
Jacqueline?
Well, they can continue to have criticism. Of course, we know that the number of people in prison has escalated, but the answer to that, and there are pressures, but the answer to that is not to release 2,000 rapists. I mean, there are many other people in prison who've done probably far less than that, and if they were going to do early release, I mean, they're dropping this now down to a third. And I just don't think it's acceptable, frankly. We have somewhere in the region of 10 or 11,000 foreign criminals in British jails, and you can't tell me that there may be a few that you couldn't return to somewhere or other. But there has got to be an opportunity where we are not actually paying for and looking after these criminals who actually should be deported from this country. And I think that needs to be they need to seriously look at that. There aren't enough. I mean, the sentences are also an issue. We're going to come on to that, I think, so I won't go into that at the moment. But it's about deterrence as well. And unfortunately, we've just heard a very sad example. And it's really now how we're going to try and deal with some of this crime that's on the streets. And I just don't think that the penalties are tough enough.
Yeah, I always find it interesting. Why can't we knock one of those Nightingale things up and put prisoners in their low-risk ones? Obviously, I won't be putting mass murderers in there, I'm not daft. But I always found those kind of solutions interesting. We managed to knock those up for COVID and did absolutely nothing with them. So why not again? Brian, where it says, Michelle, you've been talking about taxes. I'm trying to win the motorhome on GB News and the cash, and when I do, I'm leaving this country as soon as possible. Brian, can you take me with you, please? I think that's a fairly decent-sized motorhome, that one. Lots of you getting in touch as well, pointing out that marginal tax rate that many people have applied to them. I think it's between about £100,000 and £125,000. Some of those marginal rates are about 60%. You're absolutely right. Lots of you as well getting in touch, sending your love to the Costa family. I absolutely echo that. But for now, thank you to my panel. Thank you to you at home. Have a great night. I'll see you tomorrow night.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good evening, I'm here with your GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. There's some wet and very windy weather to come later tomorrow and into Thursday, but for the time being, well, things are actually turning a little bit drier. We still have low pressure in control. It's just to the north of the UK, but it's somewhat easing, and so we're going to see a lot of the showery rain clearing away as we go through the rest of this evening, and most places turning largely dry. Not completely dry, there will still be a few showers coming into the northwest, but most places having a lot of clear weather because of the clear skies and the winds easing out as well. Temperatures dropping a bit lower than they have done through some recent nights. Towns and cities mid to high single figures quite widely, but some rural spots dipping close to perhaps even a little bit below freezing. So there could be a touch of frost first thing tomorrow morning, and also a few patches of mist and fog across southern parts of England and Wales. Largely dry, just one or two coastal showers here and there. Similar story across northern parts of England. Meanwhile, across Scotland and Northern Ireland, showers will be piling into western parts. Some of them could be a little bit on the heavy side. Meanwhile, towards the east, well, it is going to be drier. It's going to be clearer, and with that, a greater chance of a touch of frost and also some of those mist and fog patches. Once any mist and fog does lift, it's actually looking like a pretty fine day for many of us tomorrow, probably the driest day of the week for most, with a good deal of dry, sunny weather around, albeit there will be some cloud here and there, and the cloud is going to thicken from the southwest as we go